Write your title here in capital letters. When I showed up to my son's Christmas dinner, his wife said, "You weren't on the guest list." Then my granddaughter handed me a letter. I was folding my good napkins, the linen ones with the little embroidered bluebells. My mother made them for me when I married Richard 42 years ago. I remember thinking how stupid that was, folding napkins at my age. My hands don't work the way they used to. The arthritis in my thumbs makes the small movements hurt. But I wanted everything perfect. Christmas dinner at my son's house. First time in 3 years they invited me. 3 years. That's a long time when you're 72. That's a long time when you've been alone. The invitation came through my daughter-in-law, Claire. A text message, short. No dear or mom or even hello. Just a time and an address. I knew the address. I helped them with the down payment on that house, $11,000, my inheritance from my Aunt Mildred. Richard said don't do it. He said let them struggle like we did. But I looked at my son's face, Michael, my boy, the one I held when he had croup at 2 a.m, the one I drove to soccer practice in the rain, the one I paid for college, the one who stopped calling after he married her. I gave him the money anyway. That's what mothers do. We give. We keep giving until there's nothing left. I arrived at 4 o'clock like she said. I brought a pie, apple, his father's favorite.
Richard used to eat half a pie in one sitting. Then he'd pat his stomach and say, "That's the best thing I ever put in my mouth, besides your mother." That was Richard. Crude but sweet in his own way. He's been dead 6 years now. Cancer in the pancreas. Fast and mean. I watched him shrink from 200 pounds to a bag of bones in 11 weeks. The night he died, he held my hand and said, "Take care of Michael." I promised him I would. I broke that promise. Not because I didn't try, because Michael didn't want to be taken care of anymore. He wanted to be someone else. Someone without a mother. Someone without a past that didn't fit the life Claire built for him. I knocked on the door. No one answered. I could hear music inside. Christmas songs. Mariah Carey. That one about wanting you for Christmas. I knocked again, harder this time. The door opened finally. Not Michael. Claire. She looked different. Her hair was lighter, blonder than usual. She had on a red dress, expensive, the kind of red that says, "Look at me, but also don't touch me." She looked at me like she was looking at a piece of furniture someone left on the lawn. No smile, no hug, just her eyes moving up and down my body. I knew what she saw. An old woman in a blue coat, gray hair that needed a cut, shoes from Payless, hands wrinkled like raisins. "The pie," she said. "You weren't on the guest list." I thought I misheard her. The music was loud. The house smelled like cinnamon and roast beef. I could see people inside. A lot of people, laughing, holding wine glasses. A man I didn't know was carving something at the kitchen island. I said, "What did you say, Claire?" She said, "The guest list. You weren't on it. Michael must have made a mistake." I said, "He invited me. You invited me. Your text message." She tilted her head. That dog tilt they do when they're pretending to be confused. She said, "I never sent you a text message." I said, "I have it right here." I pulled out my phone. The old one. The one Michael gave me 3 years ago. The screen was cracked. I never bothered to fix it. Who am I showing it to anyway? I opened the message. She reached out and took the phone from my hand. She looked at it. She deleted it. Right there in front of me. Her thumb pressed delete. Then delete again. Then she handed the phone back. She said, "See? No message." I stood there in the cold. It was December in Michigan. The wind was coming off the lake. My coat isn't warm enough. I bought it at a thrift store 2 winters ago. The buttons are loose. I could feel the cold going into my bones. The kind of cold that stays. The kind of cold that becomes part of you. Claire started to close the door. Then I saw her. My granddaughter. Lily. She's 11. She has Michael's eyes. That same green. That same way of looking at you like you're the only person in the room. She was standing behind Claire. She was wearing pajamas with reindeer on them. She looked at me. I looked at her. I said, "Lily, baby, it's Grandma." She didn't say anything. Claire put her hand on Lily's shoulder and pushed her back.
The door closed. I heard the lock turn. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10. I don't know. Time gets strange when your heart is breaking. I walked back to my car, a 2008 Honda. The heat doesn't work. The check engine light has been on for 2 years. I sat in the driver's seat and put the pie on the passenger side. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, watching the windows of my son's house, the house I helped pay for, the house where my grandchildren sleep in beds I bought, the house where my husband's toolbox still sits in the garage because Michael said he wanted to keep it. Through the window I saw them, Claire laughing, Michael pouring wine for a woman I didn't know, Lily sitting on the floor with her cousin, everyone smiling, everyone warm, everyone full of food and wine and each other, and I was outside, in the cold, in the dark, holding a pie for people who didn't want me there. I drove home. The drive is 40 minutes. I took the back roads. I couldn't handle the highway. The headlights of the other cars felt like accusations. I kept seeing Claire's face, the way her mouth moved when she said you weren't on the guest list, the way her thumb deleted my proof, the way she looked at my coat, my shoes, my hands, like I was something she wanted to throw away. I thought about Michael, my boy, my only boy. I had 2 daughters too, but Michael was the baby. The one I almost lost, the one who came early at 30 weeks. He fit in my hand. He was purple and crying and so small. The doctor said he might not make it. I sat next to his incubator for 47 days. I didn't leave. Richard brought me food. I ate it standing up. I sang to Michael through a hole in the plastic. I told him to hold on. I told him I needed him. He held on. He grew. He became a man. He married a woman who would one day lock me out in the cold. That's the joke. That's the whole joke of being a mother. You fight for them to live, and then you watch them become someone who wishes you were dead. I got home around 6. My house is small, a ranch. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. The paint is peeling on the porch. The mailbox is crooked. I don't care anymore. I used to care. I used to plant flowers. I used to keep the lawn green. Richard and I had parties here, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, New Year's. The house was full of noise and food and people who loved us. Now the only noise is the refrigerator humming and my knees cracking when I walk. I put the pie on the counter. I took off my coat. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I taught Michael to write his name. He used to hold the pencil in his fist. He'd get frustrated and throw it. I'd pick it up and put it back in his hand. I'd say, "Try again, baby. Try again." He'd try again. That's what mothers do. We pick up what they throw down. We keep putting it back in their hands, until our own hands are too tired to hold anything. The phone rang at 7:30. I looked at the screen. Unknown number. I answered anyway. It was Lily. I could tell she was whispering. She said, "Grandma, don't be mad." I said, "I'm not mad, baby." She said, "Mommy told me not to call you, but I wanted to." I asked her where she got the phone. She said it was her friend's phone. Her friend Emily was sleeping over. Emily's mom let her use it. I asked Lily why Claire didn't want me at dinner. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing. Then she said, "Mommy said you make everyone sad." I said, "What do you mean, baby?" She said, "Mommy said you always talk about Grandpa and about when Daddy was little, and nobody wants to hear it. She said you make everything about you. She said, you're too much. Too much. That's what she said. My daughter-in-law said I was too much grief, too much memory, too much love, too much presence. I had become a thing that needed to be managed, a problem, a sadness that ruined the mood. I was the ghost at the feast, the reminder that life ends, that people die, that marriages break, that children grow up and forget you. I was the mirror nobody wanted to look into, so they put me away, like a photograph they didn't want to see, like a letter they didn't want to open. Lily said, "Grandma, I have something for you." I asked her what it was. She said, "A letter." I asked her who wrote it. She said, "I did. I wrote it for you at school." My teacher said we should write to someone we love. I wrote it to you, but Mommy said I couldn't mail it, so I hid it in my room. I asked her what the letter said. She said, I can't tell you, you have to read it. I told her I would come get it. She said, no, Mommy will be mad. I told her I would figure something out. She said, okay, Grandma, I love you. Then she hung up. I sat there for a long time. The house was dark. I hadn't turned on any lights. The only light came from the street through the window. I watched the snow start to fall, big flakes, the kind that stick, the kind that cover everything. I thought about that letter, a letter my granddaughter wrote to me, a letter her mother wouldn't let her mail. What did it say? What did an 11-year-old girl have to say to her grandmother that her mother didn't want said? I thought about all the things I wanted to say to my own grandmother. She died when I was 13. I never got to tell her that I loved the way she smelled like rose soap. I never got to tell her that her hands felt like safety. I never got to tell her that when she sang Amazing Grace in the kitchen, I thought God was in the room. I never got to say those things, and now I never would. I called Michael. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. What would I say? Your wife locked me out in the cold on Christmas. Your daughter wrote me a letter you won't let her send. Your son doesn't know my name anymore. Your father's ghost lives in my house, and I talk to him every night because nobody else will listen. I didn't say any of that. I just hung up. Then I made myself a piece of toast. I ate it standing at the counter. The pie sat there, untouched, a reminder of what I carried and what was rejected. The next morning, I woke up at 5. I always wake up at 5. The body doesn't care about holidays or heartbreak. The body just wakes up. I made coffee, the same coffee I've made for 40 years. Folgers, black, no sugar. Richard used to put sugar in mine without asking. He said, you drink it too bitter. He said, let me sweeten you up. I miss that. Someone deciding what you need. Someone being sure enough to act. Now I drink it bitter, because bitter is what I have. I drove back to Michael's house at 7 in the morning. I knew Claire would be asleep. She sleeps late. She always has. Michael would be getting ready for work. He's a sales manager for a software company. He wears ties now, expensive ones. He used to wear t-shirts with cartoon characters. He used to laugh with his whole body. Now he laughs like he's reading a script. I parked down the street. I didn't want Claire to see my car. I called Michael again. This time he answered. His voice was sleepy. He said, Mom, it's early. I said, I need to see you. He said, can it wait? I said, no. Fine. Come to the back door. The side door by the garage. Claire is still sleeping. I walked through the snow. The side door was unlocked. Michael was standing in the kitchen in his bathrobe, the same bathrobe I gave him 10 years ago, navy blue. The elbows were worn thin. He looked old, older than 39. There were lines around his eyes I'd never seen before. He looked tired, not sleepy tired, the other kind, the kind that comes from living a life you didn't sign up for. He said, Mom, what is it? I said, Claire locked me out last night. He didn't say anything. I said, she deleted the text message where she invited me. She said I wasn't on the guest list. She closed the door in my face. Michael looked at the floor. He said, Mom, I didn't know. I said, you didn't know she invited me, or you didn't know she locked me out? He said both. I said, Michael, I raised you to be a better liar. He looked up at me. His eyes were wet. He said, Mom, you have to understand. Claire is under a lot of pressure. The girls are expensive. The house needs a new roof. Her mother is sick. I said, I'm sick too, Michael. I have arthritis. I have high blood pressure. I have a heart that's been broken so many times I'm surprised it still beats. He said, I know, Mom, I know, but it's different. I said, how is it different? He didn't answer. I asked him about the letter. His face changed. Something closed behind his eyes. He said, what letter? I said, Lily wrote me a letter. Claire wouldn't let her send it. Michael said, I don't know anything about a letter. I said, she hid it in her room. Can I go get it? He shook his head. He said, not now. Claire will wake up. I said, Michael, I am your mother. I changed your diapers.
I stayed up with you when you had fevers. I paid for your school. I gave you $11,000 for this house, and you won't let me get a letter from my own granddaughter?" He started to cry. Not loud, just tears running down his face. He said, "Mom, please, please don't make this harder." I said, "Harder than what? Harder than being locked out on Christmas? Harder than my own son pretending he doesn't see what his wife is doing? Harder than a little girl hiding a letter because she's afraid of her mother?" He put his hand on my arm. He said, "I'll talk to Claire. I'll fix it. I'll get the letter. I'll bring it to you." I said, "When?" He said, "Soon." I said, "Soon isn't good enough." He said, "It's all I have." I left the way I came, through the snow, past the garage, down the street to my car. The cold didn't bother me this time. I was already cold inside. The kind of cold that starts in your chest and spreads. The kind of cold that makes you wonder if you ever meant anything to anyone. I drove home. I didn't listen to the radio. I didn't cry. I just drove. The roads were empty. The world was white. I thought about the letter. I thought about Lily's voice when she said, "I wrote it to you." I thought about Claire's face when she deleted my message. I thought about Michael's tears, real or fake. I couldn't tell anymore. That's the worst part.
When you can't tell if your own son is crying because he loves you or because he's embarrassed of you. 3 days passed. No call from Michael. No letter. No text. Nothing. I called him twice. He didn't answer. I left a message. I said, "Michael, I'm not angry. I just want the letter, please." He didn't call back. I thought about driving over there again, but I knew what would happen. Claire would answer the door. She would say, "Michael isn't home." She would say, "The girls are busy." She would say, "Maybe another time." Another time. That's what people say when they mean never. They say, "Let's do lunch." They say, "We'll call you." They say, "We should get together soon." All of it means leave me alone. All of it means you're not important enough to schedule. On the 4th day, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. It was a woman. Her name was Susan. She said she was Lily's teacher. My heart stopped. I thought something happened to Lily. I said, "Is she okay?" Susan said, "Yes, she's fine. She's at school. I'm calling because I have something that belongs to you." I asked her what it was. She said, "A letter. Lily gave it to me this morning. She asked me to mail it to you, but I wanted to call first. I wanted to make sure you received it." I asked her what the letter said. She said, "I didn't read it. It was sealed." But Lily seemed upset. She was crying when she gave it to me. I asked if she had told you anything about the letter. Susan said no, just that it was important. And that her mother didn't want her to send it. I drove to the school. It was 45 minutes away. I drove faster than I should have. The roads were still bad. Ice in the shadows. I didn't care. I needed that letter. I needed to know what my granddaughter wrote to me. I needed to know if there was one person in that family who still loved me. One person who saw me, not as a burden, not as a sad old woman, but as a grandmother, a real one. The kind who bakes his boo-boos and reads bedtime stories. The kind I was to Lily before Claire decided I was too much. I met Susan in the parking lot. She was young, maybe 30. She had kind eyes, the kind that look at you like you matter. She handed me an envelope. It was white, crumpled, like it had been folded and unfolded many times. My name was on the front, Grandma, written in purple crayon, the same crayon I bought Lily for her birthday, a box of 64, the one with the sharpener in the back. I remember giving it to her. She was 6. She opened it and screamed with joy. She hugged my legs so hard I almost fell. She said, "Grandma, you know me. You know what I love." I said, "Yes, baby, I know you. I've known you since before you were born. I held you in my arms when you were 3 hours old. I whispered in your ear that I would always be there, that I would always love you, that nothing could ever change that." I opened the letter. My hands were shaking. I sat in my car. Susan stood outside. She said, "Take your time." I nodded. I couldn't speak. I unfolded the paper. It was notebook paper, the kind with the dotted line in the middle. Lily's handwriting, big and wobbly, the way 11-year-olds write when they're trying hard to be neat. This is what it said. "Dear Grandma, I am sorry I did not say hi at the door. I wanted to, but Mommy pinched my arm. She pinches hard when she is mad. She told me if I talked to you, she would take away my tablet for a month. I am sorry, Grandma. I miss you. I miss when you used to pick me up from school. I miss when you made pancakes with the faces. Mommy says you are sick in the head. She says you make up stories about Grandpa because you are lonely. But I believe you, Grandma. I believe you when you say Grandpa talks to you in your dreams. I believe you when you say Daddy used to be funny. I believe you because you never lie to me. Mommy lies. She told me you didn't want to see me anymore, but I knew that wasn't true, because you always want to see me. You always did, even when I was bad, even when I broke your vase. You said it was okay. You said things are just things. You said I am more important than anything. Mommy says you are trying to turn me against her, but I am not against anyone. I just love you, and she says I can't. She says you are not safe, but you are safe, Grandma. You are the safest person I know. Please don't die. Please don't leave me. I will come see you when I am grown up. I will drive to your house and bring you flowers.
I will stay with you, and we will make pancakes with faces. I love you, Grandma. I love you more than all the stars. Your Lily. I read it 3 times. Then I read it again. Then I put my head on the steering wheel and I cried. Not the quiet crying I do at home, the loud kind. The kind where your whole body shakes. The kind where you can't breathe. The kind where you sound like an animal. Susan knocked on the window. She asked if I was okay. I couldn't answer. I couldn't do anything but cry. For Lily, for myself, for Michael, for the family I thought I had, for the family that was stolen from me. Not stolen all at once, stolen slowly. One lie at a time, one pinch on the arm, one deleted message, one locked door on Christmas. When I finally stopped crying, I drove home. I put the letter in the drawer where I keep Richard's watch and my mother's wedding ring, and the sonogram of Michael when I was pregnant. The things that matter, the things that prove my life was real. I sat on the couch, the same couch where I nursed Michael, the same couch where Richard proposed, the same couch where I told my daughters their father was sick. I sat there for a long time. The sun went down. The room got dark. I didn't move. I thought about calling a lawyer. I thought about calling the police. I thought about calling Claire and screaming at her. I thought about showing up at their house with the letter and demanding answers. But I didn't do any of those things because I knew the truth.
The truth is, Claire will never change. Michael will never stand up to her. Lily will grow up and she will remember. She will remember her mother pinching her arm. She will remember the lies. She will remember the letter she had to sneak out of the house. And one day, she will leave. And when she does, she will come to me. Or she won't, because I might not be here. I'm 72. My mother died at 74. My grandmother died at 70. The women in my family don't last. We burn bright and then we burn out. That was 6 months ago. It's June now. The flowers are blooming. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, brought me some peonies from her garden. They're pink and heavy and they smell like heaven. I put them in a vase on the kitchen table, the same table where Michael learned to write his name. I look at those flowers and I think about Lily. She hasn't called, she hasn't written. I don't know if she's okay. I don't know if Claire found out about the letter. I don't know if Lily is being punished. I don't know anything. And that's the worst part, not knowing. The silence, the empty phone, the birthdays that come and go without a card, the holidays I spend alone watching other families on television, the knowledge that somewhere in this town, my son is living his life and I am not in it. My granddaughter is growing up and I am not there to see it. My daughter-in-law has won. She has erased me. She has made me a ghost in my own family. But I have the letter. I have those words.
I still have the purple crayon and the wobbly handwriting and the love that Claire couldn't kill. She can lock doors, she can delete messages, she can pinch arms and tell lies and make my son into a stranger. But she cannot take that letter. She cannot take the truth that a little girl wrote to her grandmother because her heart was too full to stay silent. That letter is mine, and when I die, my daughters will find it. They will read it, and they will know. They will know what kind of woman Claire is. They will know what their brother allowed.
they will know that their mother spent her last years alone, not because she was too much, but because she was not enough for people who needed her to be nothing. I still fold the napkins sometimes, the bluebell ones. I fold them and I put them in the drawer, and I think about all the dinners I will never host again, all the Christmases I will never spend with my grandchildren, all the pies I will bake that no one will eat. I think about Michael, my boy, my baby, the one who fit in my hand. I think about the day he was born, the way he cried, the way he grabbed my finger, the way the nurse said, "He's a fighter." He was a fighter. He fought to live, but he won't fight for me. He won't fight for his daughter. He won't fight for anything that requires courage. He will stand in his kitchen, in his bathrobe, and cry and say soon, and then do nothing. That is the man I raised. That is the son I almost died for. That is the greatest heartbreak of all.
Not the locked door, not the lies, not the loneliness, but the knowledge that I gave everything I had to people who turned out to be exactly the opposite of what I taught them to be. Sometimes late at night, I hear Richard. Not really, but in my head. He says, "You did your best, woman. You did your best." And I say, my best wasn't good enough. And he says, "It never is. That's why they call it your best, and not the best." I laugh at that. Even in my imagination, Richard makes me laugh. He was the only one who could. He was the only one who saw me, really saw me. Not as a mother or a grandmother or a problem to be managed, but as a woman who loved too hard and gave too much and trusted too easily. A woman who is now alone in a small house with a cracked phone and a 2008 Honda and a letter from a granddaughter she may never see again. I don't know what happens next. Maybe Michael will wake up one day. Maybe Claire will leave him and he'll come back to me. Maybe Lily will run away when she's 16 and show up on my doorstep. Maybe none of that will happen. Maybe I will die in this house alone and no one will find me for days. The mailman will notice the newspapers piling up. The neighbors will smell something. They'll break the door down and find me on the couch. The bluebell napkins in the drawer. The letter on the nightstand. The pie in the freezer from Christmas. And they'll say, "Poor woman." They'll say she had a family. They'll say what happened. And nobody will know.
Nobody will know that I showed up to my son's Christmas dinner with an apple pie and hope in my heart. Nobody will know that his wife said, "You weren't on the guest list." Nobody will know that my granddaughter handed me a letter that would become the only thing keeping me alive. They won't know because nobody tells those stories. Nobody says I raised a son who let his wife erase me. Nobody says I spent my last years folding napkins for no one. Nobody says I loved so completely that I forgot to save anything for myself. But you know now. You know because I told you. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the point isn't to be remembered by the people you love. Maybe the point is just to tell the truth before you go. So here it is. The truth. I am a 72-year-old woman. I am a mother. I am a grandmother. I am a widow. I am alone. I have a letter in a drawer that says I am loved. And I am holding on to that letter like a life raft. Because when you're drowning in the silence of the people you raised, the only thing that keeps you above water is the memory of a purple crayon and 11 words. I love you more than all the stars. I love you more than all the stars. I love you more than all the stars.